We'll call it 9 o'clock. Everybody
Call
please
it
stand
9.
for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you for showing up this morning. Thank you for the birthday cake. It was really special.
You're welcome. Birthday should be special.
Okay. Let's take a look at the agenda. Anybody have any additions or corrections to that?
Mr. Chairman, under item 3, consent agenda, please add the amount from the hospital warrants, $691,263.57, 691,263.57. And then I'd like to add under other business, Highway 23 Resolution 59-10-20. Highway 23 Resolution 5910-20.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anybody care to move that?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now what about the consent agenda? Did you have a,
I'd move the consent agenda.
okay,
Second.
motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to Mike Heyman. Looks like Herb's here. I think that's Herb anyway. Since he's growing some.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mike, those are updated copies of the contract. I had County Attorney Sandy look it over yesterday. He made a couple of redactions on it for some wording that didn't make any sense, so.
Good.
And we can put the dates on there, for correct on there too.
Okay.
Should be good to go.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for your time today. We're here to present a couple things. First of all was an agreement for the detention services for the Flanders Santee Sioux Tribal Police Department and the Pipestone County Sheriff's Office agreement. And I'll let Ed explain a little bit more about what changes were made to that. There was some small changes and that we're looking to renew that as well.
Yeah, so we had a 1-year contract with the tribe over there, and that expired. And then their attorney over there approached us that they'd like to meet with us because just to renegotiate it and for the price mainly, you know. So, and the sheriff and I agree it's been going well with them, and they really like coming over here. So we thought maybe $90, go from 120 to 90, and then they agreed to make us like their main jail that they would use. Right now, Lake County and Madison, South Dakota's where they go first before us. And for this $90, and they'd be calling us before Lake County. So.
And that's only if you have room or whatever.
Yeah, right.
That's per day.
Is that $90
Does that
per
include
day?
meals and everything, or is that?
That we provide the meals under that.
Okay.
And then they wanted it for like 3-year contract instead of year by year.
So, is that what we're talking about, is 3
Yeah.
years now?
Mr. Chair, they don't have too long of holds, do they? Just a few days at a time
No, it's
usually?
really pretty short. They have court on Thursdays,
Right,
so it's pretty rare they're here more than a week.
right. So that wouldn't impact us too much then, so.
We don't have
It's
to
not a-
we don't transport them from the state line or anything like that?
No, they bring them up, bring them over here. It's not a lot of people. They only had like 40 people in jail the whole year, including Madison and Sisseton. And we probably had, I don't know, a dozen here maybe.
Well, I understand the philosophy behind reducing that rate. The first year it was really unknown. We didn't know where we're at. It's been going real well, and you recommend that we reduce it down to 90? Yep. Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve this resolution then with the updated fee schedule.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. We have
The next item
joint powers.
was the joint powers agreement, and I believe the resolution number for that was gonna be 59-09-2020.
Correct.
We're looking for that resolution to be passed. The joint powers agreement, just a little history. In the past, we've reported what's called Minnesota offense crimes to the BCA through hand-submitted forms. That's the way it's been done for years. The FBI, legislation was passed at the FBI because that was all reported to the FBI. And then a clandestine way of doing it in today's world because of technology. Our RMS system we have is capable of saving a lot of employee time collecting that data and moving it over by hand. So the legislation has passed that the FBI needed, or we're going to establish by January 1st of 2021 a deadline for everyone to submit these statistics through the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS. Basically just replacing the MOC coding or UCR coding if you were looking at it from the federal side. This is something that's happening with all agencies. The BCA is who collects it for the state of Minnesota. They then lean back on the local government agencies to submit that coding to them. They collect it, submit it to the FBI. The cost to get this done was $8,000, and we were able to secure a grant from the BCA for that. And in the joint powers agreement, it spells out 8 $1,000 payments as we lay out that the NIBRS program into our RMS system. So it will, at the end of the day, not cost us locally impact dollars as far as from our budget. We will get that back in time once it's completed. We do have to pay for it, obviously, up front. In addition to that, once this is completed, it'll save us, labor time moving forward too. We do have to do things a little differently, and I think the benefit to this more than anything is, it's not that the old system didn't work, it was not very accurate, is the best way to probably put it. This, I think, will be more accurate for the bean counters that want to make sure they understand what's going on, not just in New York, but in southwest Minnesota at the federal level. And it'll also help us track crimes and what happens, what our clearance is of those crimes better than we could before too. So that's some history on it. We're basically looking for the board to pass that resolution, and the fact that joint powers agreement would go into effect between the Pipestone County Sheriff's Office and the BCA.
Luke, you
Need
have a
to
question?
move fairly quick on it, because get on board, we have to have it a 3-month trial period, and then need to have that done by October to be done by the end of the year, so.
With a 4%, less than 4% error rate at that for 3 straight months. So.
Couple of questions. What constitutes an error?
Could be anything from something a developer in the software didn't do correctly compared to how we collect it here in our RMS system, to us simply not doing it correctly when the officers input the NIBRS facts or statistics into the report. It could
Such
be
as not putting the race code in.
Okay.
something like that.
So the information is already coded into the computer format or whatever as you have incidents occur.
Yep.
And so there's not a bunch of additional data entry after the fact. It just will pull the information out and go into this neighbor system.
Well, as I understand it, the officer's gonna have to do some of that while they're doing their case. Right
Do they
now,
do that
I've been
anyway?
doing that like after the fact, and there's a lot of guessing. Like the age of the person, I might not know the value of something, stuff like that. So hopefully that'll clear some of that up.
Clearance probability of the case, if it did get closed, if it's still open, those things was, like I said, handwritten and submitted before. Now, the filling out of that will be part of the officer's responsibility when they're doing their report.
But you feel the 8,000 will cover the full cost of,
Yeah, the 8,000 is exactly what we were quoted for that, from our RMS vendor to make it work with the BCA.
right, but I mean, as far as you feel that'll cover the cost of your staff time to do whatever you need to do to,
This will reduce our staff time in the future, there's no question about that. I mean, like everything, once you get moving into
Used to it,
yeah,
whatever.
which is why, like Ed said, we need that. And, you know, this is not new, we did wait, like we do with a lot of things, to let them work. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, let someone else do the headache, so we didn't wait too long, we just waited till we needed to move forward, so.
Mr. Chair?
I move for approval.
Okay, Chris made the motion.
I'll second
Dan
that.
seconded. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I do have a question, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
Dan?
On page 4 then, 10.2, it talks about termination, it talks about funding. So this $8,000, this is a one-time fee at this point? It's not an annual ongoing fee?
No, yep, it's a one-time fee.
Yep.
To our knowledge, I mean, obviously, we will have to upgrade our RMS system at some point.
Yep.
It gets upgraded frequently now with the current, what we're in, there's an end of life to everything. So at some point, when we renew RMS, I don't know when that'll be, hopefully a long time from now, I would assume that'll be part of that cost, but it's gonna be probably more anyways than it cost in 2014 when we launched that RMS system as it works, but it shouldn't be, it's not a reoccurring fee.
It's not going to be the annual
No.
fee. On this 10.2, under termination, it talks about, the state can terminate it if they don't have ongoing funding from the legislator and so forth and so on. So at this point, of course, that's just their normal.
That would be, and that applied if you waited too long and the funding didn't get refunded from legislation and you didn't have this going by then.
Yep.
Which is why we want to get, and obviously the deadline being 2021, there's some that are completed with this and there's agencies just like us that are in the same.
It doesn't look like it's optional. You have to do this. don't
We
you?
do have to do it. We're going to be forced to do it by the end of, this year. And we knew that. That wasn't headline news to us by any means, but it's a lot easier to have the larger agencies work out the headaches than for us to have that. So.
Sounds good.
Okay, any other questions? We might have a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or reports or questions for these guys while we got them? We got some time today if there's anything we want to throw out there.
You got him in the hot seat?
Why'd
I
you
love
have
this part.
deer in the headlight look?
Wide open.
Doesn't sound like there's any complaints, so you can go, you guys can go.
That's good.
You probably noticed that, but as far as housing Lincoln County, South Dakota inmates, that
It's
we
done.
haven't gotten any for
Okay.
a while. And
Yeah.
since they opened that new addition for Minnehaha, that's when that all kind of quit.
Yeah. Sheriff Reeman had mentioned that as well, too, that is,
Probably a good thing. They seem like they're pretty rough individuals.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Casey Sievert on our agenda next here. Let's see what she has to say.
Yep. Can we scare her, too?
Something like that.
Yeah, she's pretty tough to scare.
Let's see, Mr. Chair, members of the board, good morning. Thanks for having me in here. For this morning, the only two things that I have are, I would like signatures for both the Minnesota Region 5 Homeland Security and Emergency Management Association mutual aid agreement. And this is pretty much just a formality. Region 5 consists of 18 counties and 2 tribal nations, and this basically just kind of covers for when we go to one another's counties or tribal nations to help during a disaster, or they come to us or whatever, we, borrow equipment and such. So this is something we've been doing forever anyway. This is just a formality again, and probably a little more pertinent now because there has been a huge turnover in some of the various counties with people that have decades of experience retiring and moving on, and now lots of newer people, less experienced people coming in.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the mutual aid agreement with Region 5.
Second.
And Chris made the motion. Chris second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
And the second item is just, I'm seeking a signature for the 2019 Emergency Management Performance Grant. The grant agreement, our amount for 2019 was $16,343 even. And everything else should be good to go on that, so all I'm seeking on it is a authorized signature, and then I'll get that submitted to the state, and we should be getting our EMPG money here then in a few
I'd move
months.
for approval.
Okay, Luke
Second.
and Wes, second. Any other discussion?
Seems to be a little late in this coming for 19, isn't it?
This one, I don't think is too,
Not too bad?
no, not too terrible bad, because I was like on the ball with all my stuff this year.
No, I'm not saying you weren't, just that the
Oh,
state getting
no.
their grant paperwork out for last year.
Oh, it took forever for them
Yeah.
to get the grant paperwork out, because usually they have it out in like August. And I
Yeah.
don't think we got it
Yeah.
until, it was November, late November, early December maybe that we got
Yeah.
it this year. But,
So Mr. Johnson asked me about that. I said, this is last year's grant. We're now going into
Yes.
20, and hopefully we'll see 20s earlier, I hope, this session.
I hope so, because we were asking about it for several months this summer, but,
Mr. Chair, too, I've been listening and watching what's going on in the legislature. There is a push, I think, in emergency management to see about getting additional funding for EMPG for counties, because 16,300 doesn't cut anything of what we're doing and what we're paying and what we're getting out of our staff and what we're trying to do to protect our people. I mean, I think they were looking at possibly, what, $30,000 increase per county? That's a number I've heard, but
yeah, 20
we'll
or
find out
30.
more when the legislation session starts, but
well, and I know the EMPG grant amount for each county, just in Region 5, because we kind of had a little email survey going after we found out our amounts, and it was down significantly for every county. So,
I know there's a matching fund requirement as well, too, so that is
Yes.
budgeted.
yes.
Okay, all in
Okay,
favor,
thank
say
you.
aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Anything else? You just need some signatures
Yes,
Dave?
sir.
today? Never.
yeah, I'll get 'em
Probably
after the
today.
meeting, get 'em to you.
Yep.
Okay. That brings us to other business. Auditor Treasurer copier.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I put that on there. Brought to my attention that the copier that we're buying for the Auditor Treasurer's office is going to be paid for from the Recorder's Compliance Fund. So I would request that the motion from November 26, 19 be amended to state that the funds for the copier for the Auditor Treasurer's office will be coming from the Recorder's Compliance Fund. So that's what I'd be looking for as a motion in a second to pass that. It's basically housekeeping.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion?
You said purchase, but this is actually a lease.
Lease, excuse me, yeah.
It's a lease. Okay.
Lease purchase, yeah. Pardon me.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you for that.
We have the Northland Securities issue here.
Mr. Chairman and board members, Northland Securities has been the county's financial advisor for many, many years now, and we're in the very early stages of doing some work with them on some redevelopment possibly at the property at Central School. And having conversations with them before we can move any further with them to have them work with us and get more facts and figures, they require an engagement of Northland Securities as an underwriter in a non-binding period. And what they're going to do are listed on page 1, items 1 through 6. They'll give us advice regarding structure, timing, terms, other similar matters, including actions regarding an issue of bonds, preparation of rating strategies and presentations related to the issue, assistance in the preparation of preliminary and final official statements, assistance with the closing of the issue, including negotiations, discussion with respect to all documents, certificates, and opinions needed for such closing, coordination with respect to obtaining the CUSIP numbers and the registration of the issue with the book entry only system in the depository trust, and preparation of post-sales reports. So this is early on in this. There are two of them here because the issues we're looking at, depending on what we do with the property and what gets built there, One item would be called a lease revenue bond. The other one would be a taxable lease revenue bond, depending on how these are put together. And I don't have any more real detail on it this time, but in discussions that the building committee had with George Eilertson, and the information he got back from his legal team, recommended that we have letters for both of these, whichever direction we go. It might be both, might be one or the other, or it could be none of them too. Again, this is very early in the stages, but we need to have a documentation on file that we're working with Northland Security so they can help us through this complex projects.
And if I understand correctly from our conversation, the difference between the two has to do with how that money's passed through us as far as the taxes and so forth on it.
Correct. It's very possible that if we do this, that one of the buildings may have a taxable component to it, depending on
The ultimate ownership.
rent and lease and ownership, correct. So where we're at now, it just requires authorizing myself as the administrator to sign this and send this back to Northland Securities for both of these.
I would move for approval.
Okay, and I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you for that.
We have a refugee resettlement update.
Mr. Chairman and board members, in your packet, I received a letter dated January 21st from Department of Human Services. This all occurred since the board did go ahead and approve authorizing Pipestone County for resettlement of refugees. What has happened since then is that an injunction was filed in an appellate court in Maryland that at this time essentially stops the process. So we've already done our due diligence on it, but I just wanted to make the board aware that this is not without controversy across the country, and this injunction was granted, so the injunction remains in effect until either the injunction is lifted or a final legal decision on the case is filed. And the injunction could also be lifted if the administration appeals the decision, and if that is successful, the case would then go back into effect based on that executive order. So right now it requires no action on our part. It's just information to let you know that in the political arena, it's still quite alive.
And also the
Questions?
impact on us is negligible. Yeah,
As we talked about at the last meeting, when you approved that we had one refugee in the last five fiscal years come to Pipestone County, and whether that person or persons is here at this point, we have no idea at that. So it's not a large issue as far as people coming, and I believe that, personally, I think it's good that we have refugees come. I think we're a good caring community and a good caring county.
But even this
Like you said,
injunction, if there were an individual, if there were a refugee that today wanted to resettle here, this injunction really has no impact on that at all at this point anyway.
Right, because this injunction goes into effect the fiscal year coming and starting October 1st.
Yep.
So anything that's happening now, this would be going forward. So no action required, just information for the board.
Okay. How about the Highway 23 resolution?
Luke, I'll defer to you on this, if that's okay?
Road and Bridge Committee met and came up with a draft resolution, basically seeking to remove the proposed 2024 mill and overlay project on Highway 23 between Pipestone and Russell, and postponing it until adequate funding can be obtained for either concrete overlay or concrete reconstruction. And some of the reasons for that are listed in the resolution, and I guess I would make a motion to approve that resolution and submit it to all counties and cities along Highway 23 and District 8 for their approval as well, to try to get a little, more traction with more people being interested in it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I just want to note that Commissioner Johnson's been putting a lot of time in personally on this, and he's done a lot of legwork, made a lot of phone calls, a lot of long nights trying to get this put together, and it's kind of a first of its kind really around here. So I just wanted to
Okay.
make note of that.
Question on the resolution then. So the other entities that are part of the Highway 23 corridor, are they aware of this at this point? Have they participated in the wording on this?
No.
Okay.
They're aware, of our interest in
Yes.
pursuing this, for
Yep.
sure. But I know I did talk to Mick Vanderveer yesterday, who chairs the ATP Transportation Committee, and he looked it over and was in favor of moving on it, and will do whatever he can to help facilitate our, getting some action with MnDOT.
Is it possible, though, the way this is worded, that they might defer any upgrades on that road? Because the way this is worded, to the point until it can be, I don't see the
Adequate
sense of it.
funding.
Adequate funding, but it says that they not do anything until they can make it concrete. Is that, to paraphrase this, this resolution says we don't want them to do anything until they can make it concrete. So if that's the case, will they continue to maintain it? Will they do anything with it?
They have
or-
to for public safety.
Yeah. I don't want them to use this as an excuse
Put us to the back of the list to 10 years or 15
to
years.
kick us down the road.
But I think
Where it's a
they'll-
key corridor through the district, one of only three, and it's the highest traffic one, I would think it'd be unlikely that they're just gonna let it.
They'll still
waste
make
away.
their own decision up there.
Right.
Exactly.
This is just,
Yeah, and I do agree with the concept that we really are recommending that this should be done correctly and should be done with concrete.
Right.
But I don't want them to be able to use this resolution against us in the future, saying, well, you said you only want concrete, so we're not gonna do anything down there because we can't do concrete now. Am I looking at it too
We
negatively?
get to meet with them a few times every year too, which we already mentioned, I think earlier, how our feelings are about this stretch road, but I think we could obviously get our point across.
Yeah. But I don't want this to be viewed as an ultimatum, not that we're in a position of power to
We
to
have
make
no
any
power
demands.
in it, really,
Yeah.
but it's just, I guess I would just point to like Highway 30 as an example, which was done in the last 2 to 5 years. And it's just as bad as it was
Oh,
before
yeah.
they milled and overlaid it, or 75 is the same condition.
go from the county line up toward the Highway Cafe, that whole
Right.
stretch is, it's totally shot. I mean,
Yeah.
people aren't even using it now.
But I mean, to me, why would you waste money on that?
That was a total
Band-Aid
waste
solution.
of money on
It was.
75.
But if in a few years, 5 years, it's deteriorated to the point where it needs something, and would a mill and overlay be better than nothing? Or would they come back with us and say, well, you said you wanted concrete, so we're not gonna do anything?
Well, I mean, that's what we're basically telling them, that we feel it's a waste of money to do the mill and overlay, because it's gonna last for such a short period of time. It's not worth wasting the money.
We can cite several reasons, all the wind towers being put up that are even traveling through here too. I mean, our roads are taking a beating. The agriculture, truck traffic's increases every year.
Right.
Our numbers increase across the board. I
Well,
mean,
that's referenced in the resolution.
right.
Just like the passing lanes that they put in, personally, I just feel that was a huge waste of money. I would have much rather seen that money applied to doing it right.
Right.
Correct.
But I do think it's good to bring their attention to it again, but they'll no doubt decide what to do at some.
And all the statistics mentioned in here are from their own District 8 freight study. So it's, if they ask where the numbers came from, it came from them.
If the governor decides to build that railroad from the Twin Cities to Duluth, we're probably never going to see another road project here for 10 years.
That could be.
Because that MnDOT will spend so much money on that.
But the bottom paragraph, then basically, we're asking that the commissioner remove the 2024 mill and overlay project completely
Right,
until it can be done basically with concrete.
right, so that they don't waste that money, because if
Roll it
they
over to
do,
next year.
then they'll say, well, since you got that, you're not gonna get any improvements.
Yeah. I just hope we're not cutting our nose off and spite our face here.
I think at some point, somebody needs to take a stand that a Band-Aid solution is just that, it's a waste of money,
And again, that's still taxpayer money.
right?
Oh, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. What else we got? Pay equity report. Kathy, you want to tell us about that?
Morning, Commissioners. The first item I have for board approval today is the pay equity report. And this is something that's done every 3 years. The last time it was submitted was 2017. And this is a big piece of our compensation plan. We need to make sure that we are in compliance with pay equity. And basically what pay equity is trying to achieve is just making sure that your male employees are getting paid in the same manner and range as your female employees. How I run this report is I actually work closely with the hospital HR staff as well to get their pay ranges and job titles, making sure I'm having updated job descriptions from them as well. And basically what's inputted is the pay ranges. I have to include also our health insurance contributions, like our cafeteria contributions, and add that into the salary since we have 2 different cafeteria plans from the county to the medical center. So basically what gets inputted is the job titles, what their ranking is, which is what Fox Lawson does. They rank the job descriptions to see where they should be placed on the pay plan, inputting minimum salary per month, and then the max salary with that, with the cafeteria contribution included in there. And then what's also inputted is the years to max salary, which all of our staff has the same years to max on their pay plans, which is 11 years. The hospital has very different pay plans than us as well. Some of them have step plans, but a lot of them is kind of an open range, so theirs is inputted a little bit differently. Before I can submit the report, I do have to have board authority to submit it, just so you're aware that this was done. Once it's submitted, the final report will be posted out here on our bulletin board for 3 months per their regulations, and then also sent to the union reps. So it is due by January 31st. So we're cutting it a little close here, but I guess I'm seeking board approval today. I did run a preliminary report. We are in compliance, which is great. Yeah, so that's what I'm asking for today, is just approval of the report, and I will get that submitted today.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Okay,
I will second that.
a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
You mentioned the hospital, so does the hospital also do their own separate pay equity report, or it's all this one?
It's all under one because it's the same governing board.
Thank you.
Yep, and we've asked that several times through the years if we could report separately. But they are holding firm as of now that we need to report together.
Mr. Chair.
Luke?
What happens if you're out of compliance? Anything, or?
They do give you a period of time to correct it, and a lot of times that could potentially be, if you're out of compliance on the length of your pay plan, you may have to shorten your pay plan a little bit. If you are out of compliance salary-wise, where they find that female employees are being, in general paid less than your male staff, you may have to raise a female-dominated job up on the pay range, basically, to try to get them back into compliance.
I see.
Yep. So, and they do give you a period of time to correct that. I think it's 90 days or something like that, so.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Are you also going to tell us about the Wellness Day, Kathy?
Yes. So the Wellness Day is something that's in all of our union contracts, and this is basically a benefit for staff who have used less than 24 hours of sick leave in a year. And we would like to add this to the personnel policy to apply to our non-exempt, non-union employees, which is only about 4 staff people. You know, it just kind of recognizes them for taking not very much sick leave in the prior calendar year, and then basically they just get 1 day off to be used in the following calendar year. As part of this request, we'd like to look back to 2019, if the board is okay with that. You know, putting this in the personnel policy and then doing a look-back period of the prior year for them to use this year in 2020. And then the reason we just did non-exempt staff at this time, hourly staff, just because exempt staff have a little more flexibility in their hours and maybe don't have to take hour for hour sick leave when they're gone if they're, you know, working late one day or whatever, and kind of flexing their time a little more than a non-exempt staff member would have the opportunity to do. So basically it just impacts our 2 supervisors in the highway department, our jail administrator, and our IT technician, who are the non-union hourly employees.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
okay, we have a motion to,
Second.
a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Anything else? Upcoming meetings, AMC Legislative Conference, February 26 and 27. For those that are going, Steve.
Chair, just to confirm, I have myself, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Wildermuth going, correct? Okay, and
Okay.
the other, Bruce and Chris and Les, not going.
Okay.
So I did cancel 3 rooms, so made those available for others that apparently there's a shortage of rooms there as well. So we opened up 3 rooms, so
Okay.
AMC was very happy with me yesterday.
Sure they were.
And we'll save the county a couple $1,000s.
Yeah. Well, maybe not that much.
Well, it's all right.
It'll help.
Anything else to come before the board this morning? Any other?
Move for adjournment.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. I'll second that. The discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think everybody's invited to some birthday cake today.
Yep, got cake here.